If you've been hearing a lot about Clay and you're wondering if you should invest in the tool, this video is for you. But if you're new to my channel, my name is Sky, like the big blue sky. First things first, what is Clay? So according to their LinkedIn bio, Clay is a tool that allows you to automate your sales prospecting by combining data from any data provider to find your ideal customer and send personalized messages using AI, which is 100% accurate. But I feel like it almost doesn't fully capture or describe Clay's capabilities completely. Another way that Clay has been described, it's actually by one of their employees, Matthew Kwan. I really like this description, but it's funny. He says, the way you can think about Clay is that it's a place where you can snowball information, which again is really true, but it probably, if you don't use Clay, you're probably scratching your head and you're like, what the does this thing even do? And why are people losing their mind over it online? So, okay, let's break it down. Here are the core functionalities with Clay. Number one, you can find companies that are a good fit for your product or service. 2, you can find contacts at those companies. 3, you can enrich them for their contact information. 4, you can find valid research to personalize your outreach. 5, you can rank and score those prospects so you can prioritize them for different campaigns. And then 6 is that you can auto-generate prospecting messages with AI. So if you think about it, that's pretty much the entire prospecting process from beginning to end. And the beautiful thing about Clay is that if you know how to use it, you can build an entire workflow end to end that includes all of those different components to identify good fit prospects, all the way to sending the prospecting emails, after you've generated personalization, integrating it directly into your email sending tool, and you can build out an entire workflow that pretty much almost operates just like with one click of the button. It does take quite a bit of work and problem solving and testing to get to that point, but once you do and you have put in the work and you figured it out, it gives you a tremendous amount of leverage in your prospecting process. But okay, let's dive into each one of those functionalities in a little bit more depth. And to start things off, I'm actually going to show you functionalities 1 through 3 all together. And I'm grouping these ones together because I really think that there's like 2 primary ways that I've seen people use Clay. And the first one is like you don't have a list provider or a data provider that you currently subscribe to, or maybe your database, it's not giving you information that you need. But long story short is that you need to start from scratch building the list in Clay. So that's one side. On the other side of the house is that you already have a list that you've pulled, bought, or built from somewhere else, whether it's your CRM or it's another data provider that you use. You've built that list and now you are uploading it into Clay for further enrichment. And for this example, we're gonna focus on the one where you are building a list completely from scratch. So you're not downloading lists from Apollo, you're not pulling stuff from your CRM or ZoomInfo or whatever it is. You are starting literally from scratch in Clay. Let's take a look. So okay, if I wanted to build a list from scratch, I could come in here and I could click new table. And then I have a couple of options to choose from. And so for the sake of this example, let's start with companies. And so I can, if I want to, I can upload a list of companies to enrich, but I can also just start directly from scratch here. So they provide some starter lists that are like already built out, but for the sake of this example, I'm gonna use the integrations tab here. And so like we can find companies on LinkedIn, local businesses with Google Maps, import from the CRM. There's a ton of options, but for this one, really simple and easy. Let's start with LinkedIn. And what it's gonna do here is it pulls up basically like search functionality. So let's look at an example. So after software companies, 11 to 50, we won't even select that in the United States. And just so that we don't use a bunch of credits for this video, let's limit it to 20. So this part, I won't actually use credits, but eventually I am going to use credits to show you how to enrich some of these contacts. But what it's doing right now is it's basically going onto LinkedIn and it's using these search filters that I input here. They're really basic search filters, but you can really start to refine this down. And it's going to pull in results for you that you can preview directly in this view here.
A few moments later.
So okay, we've got our list of companies and let's just assume here that these are all perfect fits. You don't need to refine this anymore. I can go ahead and I can bring this right into a Clay table.
12 seconds later.
Okay, so we've got our list of companies here and you can see all the data that's been pulled in straight from LinkedIn, and we can go ahead and we can expand some of these rows to look at this data as well. We can add specific pieces to the column and manipulate it a little bit more. But now, okay, we've got a list of companies that are a good fit for our prospecting use case, but now how do we go about finding contacts at the company? It's actually really easy. We can just go over to find people, and it's essentially the same thing. So it's going to use the LinkedIn URL that it already pulled. Let's go ahead and add some job titles: CEO, founder, president. You can add a bunch of other stuff in here, but we will just keep it nice and simple. Let's limit the results, preview people. Okay, and now for this example, it ended up finding 5 people. And for context, it would normally find a lot more people, but I have been purposely limiting the results. So now I'm going to import my 5 people into a new table. And so now I've got 2 separate tables. There is a people tab and there is a company tab. And so what it's essentially doing here is it's pulled in the profiles for all of these individual people. We also have direct access to the data from the company table as well. And now we are really starting to build a list. So the next piece here would be to find the contact information for these contacts. And so you can directly integrate your own API key into Clay if you have a certain list provider that you want to use. But just for the sake of this example, I think a cool feature that they have are these like data enrichment waterfalls, where they combine data from multiple different data providers into like one action. So essentially what this is showing you here is that within this list that I've provided, it's going to first look for the contact information using this enrichment. If it can't find it, it's going to look for it using this enrichment. If it can't find it, it's going to use this enrichment. And you can manipulate this around. If, let's say, you can see here, this costs 2 Clay credits. If one costs less than another and you want to try and prioritize spending less credits first, then you have a lot of control over how you go about doing the enrichment. So we just map these fields. And then also a really cool thing here is that it integrates in with email verification tools or validation tools. So if you have your own, you can enter your API key, or you can just use Clay credits to do this as well. So for the sake of this example, we're just going to go and we're going to run 5 rows, and let's watch and see what happens. So as you can see, it's already starting to automatically populate. It's got formulas in here so that it knows to first try this, then try this, then try this, only based on certain conditions. So as you can see here, it didn't find it with this provider, it didn't find it with this provider, and then it finally found it with this provider. And so these formulas prevent you from spending a whole bunch of credits, and it helps you be like more efficient with how you use Clay. So okay, as you can see, it doesn't always find everybody, but if you only had one of these data providers, you would have even less data than what you'd have in Clay. And this is where their value proposition on their website, where they're like, not just one data provider, all the data providers. That's where this comes in, because they really are giving you access to multiple data providers. I don't know why this one's not mapping to the table, but it found this email as well. And so, obviously you have a bigger list, you're gonna have a lot more emails, a lot more contacts, but I hope you can see how easy it is to just go from like idea targeting, like generally about companies, all the way down to finding contact information without having to go into multiple tools or multiple different data providers. You can do it all within one, basically, sheet within Clay. And then to further that point, once this is all in here, I can also continue to extend this out, and I could find research on the prospects and the companies. I could generate the personalization with AI, all the way to integrating this directly into my email sending tool and shooting this over into campaigns. But I'm not going to show you that here in this example, because I actually want to show you examples of those in a different way. So let's go ahead and move on to use case number 4. And use case number 4 is to find valid research on your prospects so you can personalize your outreach. And honestly, this one alone is worth the money for me. This is probably the one that I use the most. And the only limit to this functionality is your imagination and your skills within Clay. So let's take a look at a couple examples. First, let's say you want to find job openings at a specific company, and you also want to be able to use the text from the job description so you have an understanding of what company is hiring for which roles and what they expect that new hire to do. There's a lot of useful information that you can pull from that to personalize and make your campaigns super relevant to each company. So let's look at an example. In this table here, we've got a list. We can pull in the active active job postings for all these different companies. And if you open this up, it's gonna pull in the title, the salary, the job description, all of this stuff directly into the table. And so as you can see here, it's so easy to do this. You just map these properties to the table, you pick what departments you want or the specific job titles that you want, and then it will go and find this information for you. And now for this specific example, I asked Clay to then, after we have the job postings, look for specific keywords in the job postings, organize them into specific categories, and then pull out the job titles that fit within each of the specific categories, find more keywords in the job description, feed that information into OpenAI to generate completely personalized campaigns to each individual job posting all automatically. So if you want a step-by-step breakdown, that's a lot more technical because I know I just showed this really high level. So if you want a technical breakdown on exactly how to do this, I have a tutorial on YouTube as well that breaks down exactly how to do this, and you can check it out at this video here. Another example is, let's say you do your prospecting and you personalize based on information on the prospect's website every time, and you're consistently looking for similar web pages or similar information. You can automate that research and that process in Clay. Let's look at another table. So in this example here, essentially what we did is we pulled in the sitemap for these websites. So it's like all the different web pages that I can choose from. I can pick and organize and choose from very specific web pages that I want to use. I can then scrape the text that's on these web pages, feed that information into OpenAI to again automatically generate the personalization based on that information that I otherwise would have manually had to go through website to website to website to website, think about what I want to say, write the personalization. It's like, no, just click a button and it automatically does this for you. So okay, again, on this example, I know I just covered it super high level. If you want a much more technical, in-depth breakdown on exactly how to run this type of campaign, I have another tutorial that you can check out, and it's this video here. Okay, next we have functionality number 5. And this is all about ranking and scoring prospects so that you can prioritize them for outreach in different campaigns. And if I'm being totally honest, it seems like it's a super valuable feature for people. I just personally don't use it, so I don't have an example for you. But if you check out the Clay website, they've got a ton of resources, or Eric Nowoslawski's got a ton of resources on how to use Clay, different use cases, and more in-depth tutorials. So if you want more information on how to do that use case in specific, I recommend checking those out. Now finally, this leaves us with use case number 6, which is the ability to generate prospecting messages with AI. So there's a lot of AI prospecting tools that hit the market, but my personal opinion, the reason why Clay is a better tool for this is because, as you just saw, you have more control over like the source of data. If you want to feed the AI context, you want to feed it information from a website or a LinkedIn profile or wherever you want to feed it data from, you can do it within Clay. Whereas a lot of the tools, it's like it's just pulling information from a prospect's LinkedIn profile. So if you don't sell into an industry that's on LinkedIn, or you don't want to use information that everyone else is using, then you're kind of screwed unless you're using a tool like Clay. But on the other side of the house, you also have a lot more control over the prompt. So a lot of the other tools, they just generate the personalization for you and you get what you get. Whereas within Clay, you can continue to refine and perfect the prompts that you use. So you have complete and total control over the completions that you have. But then on top of that, you can also give examples of prompt completion pairs with your primary prompt so that you can increase the quality of the completion. So it's like it's using few shot learning where you're essentially telling the AI, hey, this is what I want the completion to look like, and it dramatically helps to increase the quality of the completions that you get. Let's look at an example. So in this really simple table here, what we did is we scraped my LinkedIn profile, and I don't have that much on there, but it pulled in all the information. So it's got my summary, my corny summary, my experience. So you could pull in all of your prospects' different experience. But if we wanted to personalize, for example, we can go ahead to use AI, and they've got a bunch of like preset templates that you can use, but you can also just like create your own. And so here is my prompt. I have other examples on how to do prompts and like better examples of prompts if you want to check them out. But for the sake of this, really simple. Now, as you can see, I can pull in the information that I've already scraped and I can use it in with my prompt. And so this will repeat across every row, so you can scale this out really easily. Give the AI a role, so like you're a cold email copywriter. This is terrible, but just bear with me here. And then you give it more context. I want you to write a personalized line about this person using this information here. Again, this is a terrible prompt, but trying to make this easy for you. So there's the summary, right? But then we can also give it these examples. And so within here, I would put text from another LinkedIn profile that I scraped as an example, and then an example of the completion. So it's like, here is text from another profile. And then here's an example of my personalized line that's like high quality, right? And then I can add more and more examples. And the more examples typically that you add, the higher quality the completions are that you get, like the more aligned they are with like your actual vision for how you want it to personalize. If you want to see some actual examples of like what kind of personalization you can generate, I recommend checking out my video where it talks about double personalization in Clay. That video is this one here. Okay, so that's an overview of the core functionalities, but the last thing that I want to show you are just a couple features that I really like that we haven't covered yet. And the first one is the Clay Chrome extension. So this one is really, really cool. With the Clay Chrome extension, you can pretty much scrape text from any website. Some websites, they already have these pre-built recipes in it. So right when you open up the Clay Chrome extension, it like knows the structure of the website and it will just automatically start scraping the information for you. With other websites, you have to build your own kind of automation or scraping instructions in there. And so this is the Chrome extension. And as you can see, it's loading the recipe and it just starts pulling in information about the prospect. And all I got to do, if you look here, it goes from 4 rows, 6 rows. It's scraping the information. It takes a second, but it's pulling all that stuff in. And now it's 25 rows. And if I wanted to, I could just, boom, I can add this information directly to a new table and just have it accessible for me to continue enriching. So that one's really cool. The other feature that I really like that is so useful is the AI formula generator. And the AI formula generator, I mean, like, this is just such a powerful feature because, like, if you're not Excel wizard and you don't know how to like write all these different functions, you can give AI instructions in natural language and then it will automatically generate the formula that you need for you. So like, let's look at this example. As you can see here, like, I'm not that technically savvy. I wouldn't have been able to write this. Like, I know what it means because I wrote it in natural language beforehand, but I would have no idea how to write this. But instead I can use AI and I can give it the instructions in natural language and then it automatically comes up with a formula for me. I can look at the sample outputs and essentially test it before I'm like, yes, this is correct. Go ahead and use this across the entire table. And it's just like, it's so powerful. It allows you to just really, really easily organize information in your tables. Super cool feature. Now, the last one is actually not directly a product feature, but it is just as valuable. It's the Clay Slack channel. The team at Clay is awesome. They have super fast response times when it comes to support if you're having trouble and you're trying to learn the tool, because some of the feedback that people have given is that it's kind of overwhelming. It can be a lot to try and learn how to do this right out the gate, but you have access to an awesome community. There's people in there who don't work for Clay directly that will take their time out of their day to help you and answer questions. The people who work for Clay are like on it and they're gonna help you with whatever you need, but also they are so receptive to feedback and they're just so plugged in with their users and the product that they fix bugs really fast, but then they also listen to feedback for new product features and recommendations. And I've never used a tool and made so many suggestions that were just immediately listened to and implemented, and it's made my life so much easier. So all in all, I know I said this was a review video, so I feel like I got to give it a rating, and I would give the Clay tool a 10 out of 10. It has transformed my prospecting process in a lot of ways. You know, there's pros and cons to every tool. I'd say the biggest con that I run into with Clay is that sometimes it takes a while to load things.
One eternity later.
Some of that is within their control, some of it's not. Some of it is like, you know, trying to generate AI completions, and there's only so much that they can do when it comes to OpenAI. You just have to wait for OpenAI to load. But the nice thing is, you know, you can just click a button, minimize the table, and you can come back to it later and it'll be done. That is all I got for you today. If you have other questions about Clay and like your use case in specific, you're trying to figure out if this is gonna be a good tool for you to invest in, I didn't answer it here, drop a comment below. I'm happy to do my best to try and answer your questions for you. But also, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. That is all I got for you. I wish you the best of luck, and I will see you on the next video.